Hello there, my third graders. Good to see you. It's Wednesday, and I'm sure you're home busy at work today and making sure that you're getting all of your assignments done in Schoology. Great job. Keep it up. All right, let's go ahead and check our DMA for today. So we are going to start off with a review problem on area. So towards the beginning of the year, when we started multiplication, we took a look at area and looking at square units when we were working on arrays. Remember, arrays are objects that are being placed into rows. Okay, so in this case, we have some squares that are being placed into equal groups or equal rows. So the rows are the groups, and the number of squares in each row are the objects in the array. So let's take a look at our first problem. We have 4 rows here, and we have 3 squares in each row. So for me to write a multiplication equation for this, I would use my rows. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. So I have 4 rows, and there are 1, 2, 3. There are 3 squares in each row. So to find the area or the square units that this rectangle covers, this whole rectangle is covered by square units. And inside we have 12 square units because we have 3 and 3 in this row and 3 in this row and 3 in this row. So 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 3 is 9, plus 3 is 12. So 4 rows of 3 is going to be 12 square units. So hopefully this kind of gives you an idea of remembering that you can take your rows and your columns and you can write a multiplication sentence to find the number of square units it takes to cover the inside of that rectangle or quadrilateral. Remember, a quadrilateral is a 4-sided figure. All right, let's now take a look at 235 minus 128. So I'm going to do a little bit of review here with you on what these numbers tell me in my equation. So my first number is the whole. There are 235 of something. And I'm subtracting from this part of that whole. Not all of it, because if I was subtracting all of it, this would be 235. And that means I would have nothing left as my other part. But now, when I subtract, I'm looking for the part that makes up this other missing piece of my whole. So my whole is 235. I'm going to subtract 128 from the whole, and I'm going to find what is different. This is called your difference. Your difference. So, your difference. Now, let's go ahead and take and use our place values. So we're going to do this 2 different ways. We're going to start off with breaking it up, the break apart strategy first. So 200 minus 100 is 100. I have my tens, which is 30 minus 20. I look to make sure that I can subtract and I don't have to borrow and regroup. Can I subtract 20 from this 30? Do I have enough to subtract? So yes, there are enough to subtract. So when I take 30 and I subtract 20, I get a difference of 10. Now I can go to my ones place. I have 5 and I'm subtracting 8. Again, I need to ask myself, can I subtract 8 from 5? If you said yes, then you need to rethink about, if I have $5, can I use that to buy something that's $8? No, you need to borrow. So that tells me I need to borrow a 10 from that 10, and that leaves me with no 10s, and now I can carry that to the 5 to make it 15. So now I can subtract, and 15 minus 8 is going to give me a difference of 7. Now, when I put my hundreds, my 10s, and my 1s back together, I notice that I don't have any 10s. That's because I had to borrow it. So that 0 is going to be because I have no 10s. Now, let's take a look at this the same way that we would look at this if we were looking at an algorithm. Again, I look and start in the ones place. Now here I started in the hundreds place, but here I'm going to start in the ones place. That's because I may need to borrow and regroup. And if that's the case, then I need to borrow from a higher place value. So my ones are my lowest place value at this point. So my ones, I know I can't subtract because I can't subtract 8 from 5. So I'm going to borrow a 10 from this 30. And now I have 20. And now this 5 is going to have 10 more added to it to make 15. Now I can subtract, just like I did here in my ones, because I had to borrow from there. So I have 7 left because 8 plus 7 is 15. 20 minus 20, so I don't have any 10s left when I subtract 20 minus 20. And 200 minus 100 is 100. So now what I want you to do as part of your discussion today, I want you to go into Schoology and give me an addition sentence that you can use to check your subtraction. Again, I want you to use an addition sentence to help you. How would you check this subtraction sentence using addition? All right, that's your discussion question for today. All right, now let's take a look at these two fractions that they're comparing. We see that both of these are fourths. So since both of these are fourths, this tells me that I'm comparing the same denominator, but the number of pieces that I'm comparing are not the same. So think about, I've got 1/4 compared to 2 of the fourths. So if I were to look at a circle and I were to partition it into, well, those are probably not the best 4 equal pieces, right? But if I were to partition it into 4 equal parts, this would be 1/4 of my circle. Now, if I were to take the same circle and partition it into fourths, just like it says here in my denominator, and I have 1/4 and 1/4, I can see that one of these 4 pieces is not the same as 2 of my 4th pieces. This one is not part of that. So we know that 1/4 is less than 2/4, and 2/4 is actually equal to half, and half is larger than 1/4. This is in simplest form because half of my circle is shaded in. This is half, right? Because I can draw a line right down the middle here, and this half is not shaded in, and this half is shaded in. All right, now let's take a look at our last fraction problem, and it says write the fraction shown. Well, remember the denominator, this is a one whole rectangle, right? This one whole rectangle is broken up into 4 equal pieces. That tells me my denominator is how many parts are in the whole. Now, we're assuming that we're talking about the shaded pieces here. Now, if we were talking about the unshaded pieces, then my numerator would not be the same. It would be 3 of the 4 pieces, not shaded. But since we're talking about shaded, we're going to say that this is 1/4 of the rectangle. Now, what I also want you to think about is if I were to take and partition those fourths into 2 more pieces, into 2 more parts, now I have what? 8ths, right? So I want you to tell me, how many 8ths would I have? If you said 2, you'd be correct because each one of these fourths was cut into 2 pieces. So now I have 2, 4, 6, 8. So now my denominator is no longer fourths, but now it is 8ths. And 2 of my 8ths is going to be equivalent to 1 of my fourths. So remember, when you cut your fourths into 8ths, 2 of the 8ths are going to be equal to 1 of the fourths because you're cutting and you're doubling your pieces. And doubling your pieces would be you're multiplying by 2 or doubling. All right, can't wait to see what you guys have in your discussion. And I will see you guys tomorrow, which is Thursday, during our live meeting. And those of you who are online, I'll see you at school tomorrow. Have a great afternoon, guys, and keep up that hard work.